Hey guys, I am gonna go ahead and do my Q&A thread from last week. A little behind on this, just been super busy, but nonetheless, gonna go ahead and get it done. I'm doing cardio right now, so don't mind my head bobbing back and forth, and my computer's a little further away, so I'm gonna try to do my best to read. But let's go ahead and get that started. First question. Can abnormal hormone levels attribute to generally higher levels of body fat in the off season compared to what would be expected in terms of body fat percentages if hormones were stable? She mentions estrogen and testosterone primarily. Higher levels, probably not so much. Maybe if you had lower levels, potentially, body composition might not be as good. Now, in women, testosterone is really not that high anyhow. I mean, normal range is about 15 to 70 nanograms per deciliter, I believe it is. So even if someone's at 10, below the range, I mean, another girl might only be 25. It's not huge. It's going to have some effect on body composition. Estrogen and testosterone also might have some bearing on where you store the body fat and just, how it's stored. Necessarily, unless, and if hormone levels are really buried, probably gonna hold a little bit more body fat. Protein synthesis won't be as good. Muscle growth certainly won't be as good. Recovery won't be as good. So all those things are going to be impaired at that point. And that's definitely something you want to get fixed. Is it normal to have skin changes, texture, coloring during a deficit, like during a prep? Yeah, it can be. Typically just from the nutrient side of things, there might be something that you're a little deficient in, or there might be a food that you're eating repetitively or something you're consuming repetitively that could be giving you a little more that you weren't getting previously. But if anything, it's probably a little bit of a deficiency. Also, texture-wise, could be subcutaneous body fat, being lower. But yeah, I've definitely seen it. I've seen other stuff. I'm not saying this is good, but other things like gums being tender, receding, and fingernails and hair and all that stuff. And those are normally nutrient deficiencies to some extent. Let's see here. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Okay, sorry about that. Is it okay to sleep 6 hours a night, any more than that or any less? Does it really affect how your body recovers, memory, etc.? Oh yeah, for sure. Sleep's huge. The amount of sleep that people need kind of depends on the person a little bit. You hear that 8-hour general rule. I think it's more of a 7 to 9 hour general rule for a lot of people. And then obviously how deeply you sleep, the quality of your sleep makes a big difference. So I know personally, if I slept 6 hours every night, and that's always, then I would feel it. I definitely feel it. My cognitive function would be impaired. Recovery wouldn't be as good. I wouldn't perform as good. I'd feel worse. I'm normally about 7 hours averaging most nights, and then on some nights, if I can possibly get more, I'll get 8 in there. Try not to go below 7. But yes, definitely. What do you think of sesame oil? I kind of already answered this one in the thread, but I'll go ahead and touch on it. So I think I answered it. Yes. Okay. It's not It's not the worst fat source ever. It's not a good fat source, I wouldn't say. It's not really something I would use. It oxidizes easily from all the polyunsaturated fats that are in it. Let's try this again. Back at it. Alright. So I would probably stay away. Smoke Point's not great. It's not terrible, but like I said, a lot of PUFA, P-U-F-A, polyunsaturated fatty acids. Those are not really something that I'm a huge fan of. Not really something you need in abundance. Highly inflammatory, highly oxidized, all that good stuff. So probably would stay clear if possible. Okay. As a coach, how do you address or overcome clients' non-compliance? A client's non-compliance. This is a tough question. I mean, this is more of a psychological issue than anything. And how I deal with this really can vary greatly person to person. I mean, sometimes it's as simple as, just a wake-up call to the person. You don't have to be a jerk about it, but, just say, hey, do you want results? Have a serious conversation. Do you want results? Or it's contest prep. Do you want to win? Or do you want to be your best? Do you? Stop, think about it for 1 minute. Give me a serious answer. Really think about it. Sometimes they're like, no, maybe I don't want this as much as I thought. And then there you go. You can only talk them into it so much, but that's how I like to start those situations a lot. But I mean, outside of that, it's just kind of relating the material to the person. I feel like you can work with most people if you can relate the material, but at the end of the day, some people just aren't going to comply. You have to have a serious conversation with them, and let them know, hey, this is not going to happen for you now, and it's not going to happen for you ever if you can't comply. It's not me as a coach. It's non-compliance from you as a client, and it doesn't matter who's helping you. You have to do this on your own. You have to establish habits. All the bad habits you establish have taken time. So good ones are also going to take time. And once those habits are established, compliance is definitely easier. But getting there initially is hard for people. And I feel like some people never establish consistency long enough. They might do a prep and then have no off season, or they might have a weight loss phase and then have nothing, no structure after that. And it's a roller coaster. Okay. Let's see. Get back to more questions. Positive stress and the negative effects it has on the body. Is positive stress just as bad on the body, or are the effects of it less than that of negative stress? In general, yeah. In general, it's going to be less, just because you're going to get so your reward system is also going to come into play there. Certain neurotransmitters are going to be released, things that make you feel good, things that make you happy. Though overstimulation of those reward centers is going to cause issues. So, so positive stressors can still cause problems in abundance. Like I've talked about, some people, like they'll have a really structured week and they'll have some crazy eventful weekends and all kinds of good stuff going on, and then they fall on their face Monday and Tuesday because of all that, even though they're like, well, I don't get it because the weekend was so good. Well, it's because it was so stimulating, and you overstimulated essentially. So yes, they can, but I would say as a whole, no, they're not as bad as negative stressors. Testosterone dosage. I would like to know if there's any point and running your testosterone dosage over the normal amount required for male sexual function when incorporating it as part of a multi-compound cycle. As the androgenic to anabolic ratio compared to other compounds is fairly, I'm guessing fairly low, or better word to speak, when compared to something like more powerful androgenic profile. So basically saying, if you're going to run something else with it, is it worth running it over in a super physiological levels of testosterone? So there's potential for molecules, or I don't know if you want to call them molecule, but potential for the receptors being a little bogged down, meaning one thing getting knocked off to receptor to another thing, and the argument could be that it's not really worth running the tests any higher than that because it's not going to do anything, if you have something else in there. I would argue that we see it work all the time, so I don't know that that's it's hard for me. It's probably safe to say that it's not happening as an absolute. It's not rendering it completely useless. But at the same time, I don't think that if you're planning on running 2, 3, 4, 5 compounds that you need to run 1,500 milligrams of test. I just think it's pointless. They mentioned 500 versus 200. I'd try it. I mean, I bet you're not going to notice a ton of difference between 250 and 500 when you have another compound in there. Look at total dosage maybe in that case and try the same total dosage with the two different ratios, meaning go 250 then 750 the other, and then 500 of each, and see what you think. But yeah, some battling at the receptor site, but I don't think it's an absolute thing, like I said, where it's rendering it completely useless. Otherwise, I feel that even a TRT dosage would be a problem, because you wouldn't be you wouldn't be assimilating it as well as you would if it was just ran on its own. Adding 300 milligrams of EQ per week to TRT dose of tests, is it enough to produce results in your opinion? And your opinion on low dose Anavar pre-workout? Yeah, I mean, it's going to produce results. It's dose dependent once again. I mean, it's not going to be anything groundbreaking. It's going to speed up, it's going to speed up the process. You're going to have better blood volume with the EQ. You're going to have probably a little bit more endurance. Hunger might go up a little bit. Protein turnover be a little bit better. More protein synthesis, nitrogen retention, glycogen retention, all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to produce results, but it's not going to be anything groundbreaking, and it's still going to affect your blood work. It's not like you can just add little bits in here and there and you're going to be okay with it. It's probably still going to affect your blood work some. Same with the Anavar. I mean, 30 milligrams ED pre-workout. 30 milligrams is not very much, but that's definitely going to affect your blood work, especially your lipids. You could do that for a little while, but it's going to hammer your HDL after a while. So, my thought there is, if you have tendency to have really good blood work, you can get away with a little bit, give it a run for a while if you want to bump things up. But if you're just going to do a blast and make sure blood work's healthy before and after. How do you prefer to implement Yohimbine into a diet when training fasted? Backload carbs the night before instead of pre-intra workout? Yeah, I would just use it fasted. You can go carbs post workout. Train fasted, maybe just amino acids. Still going to raise insulin some, but your Yohimbine's still going to work. In that case, it's not going to be anything significant. So the Yohimbine before with caffeine, and then you could do post-workout carbs if you wanted. Probably going to start stopping the effects of the Yohimbine at that point, and then you could finish your carbs up at night, unless you wanted to just entirely backload your carbs at night and go protein fat based meals all day. you could do that also. Kind of depends on how high the carbs are, digestibility and stuff, you know, and whether you're going to want to put them into one meal or two. If DMP impairs insulin secretion, could you then benefit from using Yohimbine HDL every 3 to 4 hours, intermittent fasting type diet? I'm not, I'd have to go back and look, but I'm not completely positive on what the half-life is of Yohimbine, so possibly, but it works better with caffeine and Synergy. I've always found it to work best in one dose, to be honest. One dose when you're most active, release fatty acids, burn them, and that's what I found it to work best, you know, in way that work best. I just don't, I wouldn't probably mess with that. It's because it's a stimulant, so you're using it over and over again. If you're adding caffeine to it every time, I mean, it's probably not the best idea. Okay. Man, there are a ton of these. Okay. What's the best piece of advice you can offer someone like myself and others who are looking to be a successful coach? Would you recommend pairing up with a mentor or learning and making mistakes on one's own? I mean, I think the mentoring thing is a good idea. Obviously, I mentor a couple guys myself. I wouldn't do that if I didn't think it was a good idea. I learned from other people too, especially the coach my first coach that I had for a little while. I mean, I learned a ton. So I don't see anything wrong with that. But, I mean, there are a lot of things you're going to have to learn on your own too. Just because practical application is really going to come down to, you know, it's really going to come down to experience. I do go over a lot of that when I'm helping you mentor people, if that's what you want to call it. You know, I definitely go over a lot of situational stuff because that's really where coaching's at. Everything's context. So experience with clients and then mentoring also. I think both in combination are great, to be honest. And don't be afraid to ask questions to, you know, the questions that you might be embarrassed to ask because you think you should know it, but you don't, and you run into something that you can't figure out. Don't be afraid to ask. Okay, with no change besides an increase in protein between blood work, could this be a cause? Higher bun levels, everything was the same leading into blood work, time off, plenty of fluid, etc. Potentially yes. I was going to say probably hydration issue, but it sounds like probably not the issue. Could be. I don't have a lot of context here, how high we're talking, or, you know, you're saying an increase. I mean, are we talking 10 grams? Are we talking like 100 grams? I mean, there could definitely be a difference there. But yeah, if your fluid was the same, everything was the same, then I would say so. Your favorite source is caffeine and fiber. That's a weird question. Caffeine, I'm not a big coffee drinker. I have phases. I have been lately a little bit. So that's not too bad. I like the Monster Zeros. Those are good, just because I like the flavor. I use pre-workout here and there. I use coffee a lot because I work out in the morning, or just and then maybe a Monster. But I mean, I don't really do a lot. Any other direct caffeine sources? I'll use Project AD Shreddable as a fat loss supplement too. It just depends on the day and the timing. But I do prefer to drink my caffeine if I can, just because I like flavored stuff. But that would be the pill form, you know, if I was going to use it. But it's strong. Man, that's probably it. I'm really boring, I guess, when it comes to that. Fiber, I like the Jaro Formulas Gentle Fibers. Tons of my clients are using this, and they, you know, so they can vouch for it. Just because it's a mixed, soluble and insoluble, a couple of different sources of fiber. Certain situations, I will use specifically soluble or specifically insoluble. Just depends on the person. If it's a bowel movement issue, a texture issue where it's too hard or too soft, or they're having problems with bowels, then it could depend. But I like a blended supplement if you're just supplementing with fiber in general. Food-wise, vegetables. I mean, I love vegetables. I eat tons of them when I can. Right now, not a ton, but I definitely like them. Been craving steamed broccoli a lot. So your macros are low when you can't even eat as much broccoli as you want. So let's see what we got here. Let's see where we're at cardio-wise first. Ooh, we're almost there. Okay. What are your favorite remedies for deep in prep, bloating, and constipation? Have tried various fiber supplements, probiotics, digestive enzymes, betaine HCl, Cascara sagrada. Thank you. It's probably a food issue at that point. Could be lack of fiber, just because food volume gets low. It's hard to move the bowels as well when food volume is low because fiber naturally becomes lower, and because you're digesting a lot of the food anyhow. Now, you mentioned bloating specifically, but you mentioned constipation also, so two-part thing here. I would watch drinking tons of water with meals. I notice a lot of people get into that habit in prep just because they're hungry. So I would try to be careful there and drink mostly between meals, not to water down your digestive acids and bile acids. Let's see. Also, I'd probably look at the type of fiber you're getting. I notice a lot of people get a lot of vegetables in prep. Why? Because they're filling and they don't have many calories. So don't want to get too many food map vegetables. Talking stuff with high soluble fiber that's going to pull a lot of water into the GI tract, and that will bloat you in a second. So be careful with that. You can look up lists of that online. FODMAP. Check that out. Make sure you're not getting too many of those. Maybe check out the Jarrow formulas fiber that I talked about. And then the water with meals, without meals, water without meals. And that's all I can think of. I mean, I would have to look at probably breakdown of all your foods and all your supplements to figure it out. But the only other thing I would mention is stress. GI, a lot of GI issues can stem from stress when you're deep in prep. Even if you don't think you're stressed, you're stressed. I mean, your body is stressed. So controlling stress the best you can is going to pay off big time when it comes to digestion and proper GI function. Okay. All right, guys, we're getting close to the end here. It's been long. Whew, done with cardio. Okay. Do you think it's really useful for a female in figure to have a day solely dedicated to arms, or is it generally adequate to work them in on the end of chest and back days? It just seems like it would be the time better spent on pumpkins and V-taper in the booty. Yeah, for most girls that's fine. The extra work on the end of back chest, push and pull days. Unless their arms are really lacking, and then I might add in a direct, not a full arm day, but maybe like half of a day that's completely dedicated to arms. I do think it's important to still train them for figure, especially, really in front, side, and rear shots it looks big. You want the tricep to kind of fill into the lat there. You don't want the bicep to be like inverted, skinny. Like I see that sometimes, and I think that they don't train their arms at all, which might be true. But it definitely looks better if the lat and tricep kind of fill in together and you get a thicker, denser look there. But yeah, I think you're safe doing them on the end of the other days. Superman or Goku? Man, you're going to hate me, but I'm not much of a Dragon Ball Z guy. I was more of a Pokemon guy when I was younger. But Goku is pretty badass. I think that would be a good fight. Although I'm pretty sure Superman's pretty much invincible, isn't he? So, could be a problem there. Um, let's see. We're getting close to the end. I have a right hip clicking, have tightness from my job of sitting down as a driver with me getting in and out about 30 to 40 times a day. How can I remedy this? So first off, I would look at possibly getting a little ART done, something to get the area a little more mobile, active release, maybe some chiropractic. I would see if there's an impingement first. If you can get the area freed up and it stops clicking and it feels fine, then that may be all it is. I would say that's probably some kind of impingement or something out of alignment, just because, I mean, you're probably not going to tear anything, just getting in and out of in and out of the vehicle. Maybe it could be a wear and tear thing, arthritis, but I would say that's probably some kind of impingement and you are out of alignment. You're getting out of the same side of the car every day, repetitive movement that's off balance. So get that checked out by probably an active release therapist. What's your take on rate limitations? Oh, and then back to that one, doing some stretching and mobility work for it also. What's your take on rate limitations on lipolysis? I've read various articles, most notably that be true. Work that suggests 1 to 2 IUs GH or a basic saturation dose of peptides would max out lipolysis rates. My question then is, what about the use of, say, Yohimbine alongside this? Am I possibly making the Yohimbine useless by preceding it with the shot of GH peptides? Okay, so then they go on to talk a little bit more. So basically, they're asking, is there a maximum fat loss, maximum lipolysis rate that you can achieve, and adding other things to that aren't going to add any benefit? I would argue no. That's not necessarily true, just because, man, I hate to say it sounds really broy, but we see it work all the time. I can see some pretty fast rates of fat loss, but I think there's probably a maximum rate of fat loss within each individual. So yeah, in that case, possibly, but especially when you're looking at something like GH, it's really a dose dependent thing. The IGF increase is going to be very dose dependent. You can get a huge effect depending on the dose. So you could go up, and then still get a lot of effect. And it's going to change body composition pretty quickly. I don't think there's any issue in combining these things whatsoever. Plus, you're hitting different pathways. I know you're mentioning lipolysis as a general term, just, literally burning fat, losing fat. But like I said, we see it work all the time. I don't think that there's an issue combining all means of fat loss through, whether it's through growth hormone, or an alpha antagonist, or another fat burner that hits beta receptors, clenbuterol, albuterol, because like I said, we see fat loss can be all kinds of different rates. I've had people losing fat pretty damn fast when we really need to. So no, I wouldn't credit that as an absolute. Let's see. Last one. Thoughts on MCT and coconut oil as your only source of fat on keto besides the trace fats and proper omega-3 supplementation? Greater fat loss. Is it a healthy and sustainable way to run keto? They're easier digesting, maybe better energy source. Although on keto, fats are typically high enough that I would be rotating them just because of the different micronutrients you're going to get and the different benefits you're going to get. There's such a wide array of fatty acids that I wouldn't limit myself to just that. And MCTs and coconut oil, really, as far as nutrient density goes, they're not super nutrient dense. You're not getting a ton from them other than energy. Coconut oil does have a lot of lauric acid. I like that for HDL levels. But I would say, rotate between all your good fat sources. Get the different fatty acids that are going to provide different benefits, because there are a plethora of them. There are tons of different benefits you can get from different fatty acids. So I would definitely not limit yourself to that. Main thing is if you're in a deficit, your fat loss is there. Rotate the fat sources for sure. And that is it, guys. We're at 30 minutes. Holy shit. So I am tired. I'm going to go take a shower, eat my last meal, and go to bed and get up and do it all over again tomorrow. So thank you, guys. I will get another thread up before too long. And until next time.